Hey everybody, I'm here to bring you another cryptocurrency. This one, I want to begin with a caveat, and this is going to be a short video because I don't really want to push this coin much at all. I think you can actually mine this one somewhat profitably just because there's not much interest in it right now, but it might not really go anywhere. And the reason why I say that is that it's the coin is called ZenCash, and it's a fork of ZCash. Now ZCash has two main forks, ZClassic and ZenCash. Well, ZClassic seems to be very hard to use. I can't I can't sync the blockchain. A lot of people had that issue. And there's no founder's reward in ZClassic, the other fork of Zcash. So it might not really go anywhere, but ZClassic might also be a decent place to look at for an investment opportunity. I say that because ZClassic is like $3. ZenCash I think is like $10 or $8, something like that. But ZenCash and ZClassic, I don't really know if they're going to work because they're forks. Forks generally don't work. They generally have to offer something different. ZClassic tried to remove the founder's reward from Zcash, and it doesn't seem to be working. They don't seem to have any developers on it, really. But ZenCash tried to reduce it to 12%, and then what ZenCash is also trying to do, and this is what might make it work, and this is the only reason I'm putting the video on here, is they're also trying to use the founder's reward to actually create user-end encryption, and that just means the communication on your own computer, I believe. But I don't really understand this all that well, and the thing about this is a lot of times these things are overhyped on different cryptocurrencies. I know there are a bunch of other cryptocurrencies that are trying to do this user-end encryption and whatnot, so it seems like something that's popular, but I don't know if it'll be enough to make it somewhat different. It is kind of interesting, like the fact that they've reduced the founder's reward itself down to 12%, and I think 3.5% of that goes towards making the user-end encryption through secure nodes. So I mean, like they have like a proof of stake system through the secure nodes, so they have a very interesting setup. It's almost like a Dash-like setup. So I like that about ZenCash, and so ZenCash has a potential of working. I'm not sure if any of these are big enough issues to make the coin work on its own, because just reducing the founder's reward from 20% to 12%, although that's good, that's probably not enough. Having secure nodes on its own, that's good for a coin, not enough. The fact that 3.5% of the founder's reward goes to this secure nodes, and so you can get paid and have proof of stake security in the network too. That's good on its own, but it's not enough. The question is all of those together going to make the coin succeed? And the answer to that question depends on the development team. The one great thing about ZenCash that a lot of other development teams don't have is they have a ton of videos out there, a lot of information. They seem to be intelligent, so I'm not like, I would not put a lot of money in ZenCash ever, but if you are feeling extra lucky and you got like 25 bucks that you might want to just throw down on something, or 100 bucks, if 100 bucks doesn't mean much to you, just put it down into something and hold it in a wallet for a while. It might be useful. The good thing about ZenCash is that it's got a lot, like it seems to work a lot better than ZClassic. The development team on ZenCash, they seem way better than ZClassic. And technically speaking, it should be theoretically more private than Zcash. Again, we're getting down into these issues, these differences of degree, where it's like, does it matter that it's theoretically more private than Zcash? And it's like, well, maybe it will. So it's got all these other things going for it. It lowers the founder's reward, lower than Zcash. It'll be theoretically more private, and it has just as good of applications as Zcash right now. So I don't see how, like, there's a good reason why it could compete with it. There's nothing, no single home run, but there's a lot of line drives that ZenCash is hitting right now, so I think there's a reason to talk about it. So let's talk about these things individually. So the 12% founder reward, like I said, 8.5% goes to the founders, 3.5% to the nodes. I think it's something like there's actual owners or something of this, so that, like, the founders reward is split up amongst other things. Some of it goes towards research and development, others goes towards owners to act like the actual founders. But anyways, The lower founder reward is good because a 20% reward on ZCash, that just seems super high. A 20% founder's reward on anything is super high. Why are you giving one group of people 20% control over the entire blockchain? That seems like quite a bit. You can do it for quite a bit less. So long as the founders, like if the founders are the developers, they're going to make huge money from the blockchain anyway, so you don't need to load them up on the founder's reward. But anyways, again, it's got a lower founder's reward, so that's great. The thing about the lower founder's reward is that it actually increases security. So if 20% of the network of ZCash or 20% of the coins in each new block go to the founders, then only 80% of the coins go towards network security for ZCash. So even though this ZenCash that we're talking about right now, even though ZenCash, there's 3.5% of it goes to the secure nodes proof of stake system, it still has more of a percentage going towards the proof of work system, so it has better network security, like better proof of work network security than ZCash, and it also has the proof of stake secure node system, so theoretically it should be quite a bit more secure than ZCash. Again, the question is, does that really matter? Is that big enough to cause cause it to take over a supply or a market share similar to ZCash? I don't know. I have doubts about that, but it could be. Who knows? But again, then the founders reward, it's better. ZenCash is better than something like Z Classic because with no founders reward, you're not going to get good apps. That's the one thing everyone's been waiting on Bitcoin, is waiting for the killer Bitcoin apps that go with Bitcoin to make Bitcoin awesome to use, but they're just not coming. So having a founder's reward seems to be good, and if you just try and download the blockchain and download different wallets, it's very easy to do with ZenCash. It's not so simple to do with Z Classic, at least if you're using something like Ubuntu. I use Ubuntu. It's a little harder to download these things on Ubuntu, generally speaking. They're generally made more for Windows, but it seems that ZenCash has quite better apps than Z Classic, and that's always something that's very telling. So the next thing we have to talk about is the low node price, the low price to potential returns. So again, the price is under $10 for ZenCash, so it's under a 400th of the price of Bitcoin, so it's very young. It just came out. If it's successful, it can copy ZCash updates, so that's very important. So this one, even though ZenCash may not have the best team necessarily, it seems to have a great team. They seem to have a potentially a better team than ZCash, but I can't say that for sure. But anyways, if there's any big changes to ZCash that ZenCash needs to also use, it can just copy ZCash. That being said, I think ZenCash can kind of try and copy ZCash to some extent. Obviously, they're forks, so they're not exactly perfectly adaptable. Not everything's the same, but they're very similar, so they can work off of each other. So even though it has a low price, as long as the development team is good, they can watch what's going on with ZCash, and they can make the correct updates and not have to necessarily invest as much money in the updates as something like ZCash would. So that gives it actually quite a benefit. But again, the low price also can ensure easy mining. I already told you I'm not so sure on whether or not it's the greatest thing to invest in. Can you mine it? That might be a better option to do if you're a miner. Just mine it for profit and use the excess profit to purchase other coins, but then maybe save some of the coins that you mine. Do what you want, I guess. It depends on what exactly your risk appetite is. But anyways, the other thing that's good about ZenCash is it uses secure nodes. The secure nodes are for the user end encryption, and it makes it so that even if someone has your computer, I think they're not supposed to be able to learn anything whatsoever from the communication your computer has with different nodes and things like that. Again, this is all very technical, and a lot of times different cryptocurrencies will try to overplay these features that they have, so this might not actually be that great. If you know what they're talking about, it's better to know, you'll understand it better than I do. I just know there are other cryptocurrencies that talk about this, and it sort of makes sense if you can add more encryption on the user side. I know that there are certain wallet applications that you have to work to encrypt them and things like that, so it definitely can use upgraded. Specifically what they mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not a computer technician or anything like that. I just use the application. So I wait until they come up with updates and I use the application and I see for myself. But anyways, the other thing about these secure nodes is not only do they offer, encrypted messaging, they say they're going to have an encrypted publishing system or other encrypted things that they're going to have, but the secure nodes also, they can offer a return on investment for people who operate them. You'll have to know how to use computers. Again, I'm not that guy for you. I can try and learn how to do them someday, but don't know how to do them right now. But anyways, this stuff that they're doing, all this user-end encryption and the secure nodes, it's still sort of in the developmental stage, so I don't think it's fully operational right now. So parts of it are, but parts of it aren't, so you just have to remember that. The next thing that you really want to look at for ZenCash is so long as these secure nodes are working, even if they're not working, it's more private than ZCash, and you know this just because it's got more network security through the proof of work. Because it's got a lower founder's reward. So because there is more of the block reward going towards miners, it's got higher security, and so long as the founders are good at ZenCash, that'll be a huge advantage for it, the lower founders reward. But anyways, the ZenCash offers encrypted, that should say encrypted user end, I guess, applications, and ZCash does not, or user end messaging between systems and nodes. ZCash does not yet, and that's just to say that ZCash can do it. They just don't right now. ZenCash says they do. How much of it is encrypted and what all does that mean, I can't tell you exactly. But like I said, there's a lot of videos for ZenCash on the internet. They have great developers, at least in getting information out there. I haven't had the time to look at all the videos because it's hours of information, but if you have the time, you can look into it and see what they mean when they're talking about these secure nodes and the end user privacy and encryption. But the ZenCash also offers two-way zero knowledge, and it does it for a lower tax. And again, what I mean by that is you get better network security because there's a lower founder's reward on ZenCash. So it does the same that ZCash does, but it does it for less of a price. And so that's always better, so long as the founders can, so long as the developers are good on ZenCash, so long as the developers on ZenCash are better than the developers on ZCash. And it seems to be going well, ZenCash does. But anyways, the user encryption protects against eavesdropping, and that just means, if there was someone who had all the nodes in the ZenCash network, you could learn a lot about that network. So the user end encryption, that's what it basically protects against. It protects against somebody owning all the nodes and learning everything about the network through the nodes. And I don't know how it does that, again, but that's what it says it does. And so as long as as long as it can actually deliver on that promise, then it should be a coin that will have value, but it's got to deliver. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about is it's the best ZCash fork, Z Classic. The founder seemingly abandoned the project, or he runs multiple cryptocurrency. He also does this one called Whalecoin, which just seems terrible. It had some decent ideas, but just the way he decided to do it seems terrible. I don't know how much he holds of Z Classic. I don't know how he's in on the, like he's one of the main people in the project of Z Classic, but if there's no founder reward, he's not getting paid. So if he doesn't have a big chunk of the currency already, who's going to come out with apps? Are they going to do it out of the kindness of their own hearts? Probably not. ZenCash it's real easy to use. The wallet's easy to use. It's hard to get the Z Classic wallet to sync. It's really, the Z Classic wallet's like, there's not a lot of documentation on installation. You have to know what you're doing. It might be easier on Windows. Again, I use Ubuntu, but there's really not any, for someone who's not, super familiar with command line coding. Like, I can do basic stuff, but if I'm installing something, I need to know how to do it. I can't just look at the file and install it myself, because there's a lot of files within the folders, and you only have to install and build certain applications. But with Z Classic, there's no real documentation on it. So ZenCash seems to be the best Zcash fork. So again, ZenCash, because it's a Zcash fork, there's a real question: is it going to survive? You know, is it going to survive as a fork? There are forks that survive, and it does seem like ZenCash does actually have a lot of advantages on ZCash, whether it's from lowering the founder reward, which increases miners' security, and also they have the 3.5% going towards the secure node system, which also increases network security by offering a proof of stake sort of system and offering user or encryption. But yeah, the secure nodes offer that user encryption. It's got a low price, which can offer high returns, and because it's got a low price and low interest, sometimes that can be good for miners because it is like $10 a coin. So it might still be profitable to mine. I'm not really sure. You'll have to look into that. That's it's a very complicated equation whether like what coin is best to mine and when. There's a lot of questions going into it, including the algorithm that your miner uses. So there's a lot. But anyways, it could be useful for both miners and investors at this point. It's hard to tell. It's definitely useful for investors because it's got a low price and a low market cap. Theoretically, because of this user-end encryption and because of the proof-of-stake secure node system, it's theoretically more private than ZCash. And obviously ZCash has a huge market cap. It's like $200 a coin. This is like $10 a coin. You know, it could potentially, I'm not saying it'll necessarily catch up to ZCash, but it could get closer than being, you know, it's like 20 times less than the price of ZCash right now. It could get closer, just because it is a different cryptocurrency that does offer different applications and has different strengths and different weaknesses. But anyways, the final thing here is that it's also just better than the Z Classic, and we all know it's better than Z Classic because well, we don't all know that Z Classic could come through, but as of right now, Z Classic's having a lot of issues with just getting apps out and just having information. And Zen has a great team. ZCash seems to have a pretty good team, and so the two to look for as far as ZCash goes, I guess I should say, is ZCash and its fork ZenCash. Maybe pay attention to Z Classic, but there's a lot of problems with Z Classic right now. So, anyways, that's the end of this video. There will be a lot more to come.